"You're not even half of the man my father was," said my daughter-in-law. I pushed the chair and got up from the table, feeling the blood boil in my veins and my heart hallowing my chest like exploding at any moment. There I was, Carlos Eduardo, 52, being humiliated in front of all my family on Easter Sunday. The table was set with the best we had: roasted turkey, farofa of my late wife Helena, desserts that I took hours preparing. I had woken up at 5 in the morning to make everything perfect, because family is sacred, right? Or at least that's what I believed so far. Marcella, my daughter-in-law, was standing there with that poisonous smile on her lips, her arms crossed, staring at me like I was a trash she wanted to throw away. My 28-year-old son Andre was sitting next to her, looking at the plate, with no courage to defend me. The children, my grandchildren, stopped eating and looked at me with those scared eyes. "Let me tell you who I really am, before you think I was always this broken man who is before you today. My name is Carlos Eduardo Silva. I am 52 years old. I have been a metallurgist for over 30 years, or rather it was. I worked at the same company since I was 18. I never missed a day without justification. I never arrived late, never left early. It was the type of employee the bosses dream of having. Helena and I got married when she was 20 years and me 22. She was the most beautiful woman in the neighborhood, could have chosen anyone but chose Carlos. Carlos, who took 3 buses every day to work, who studied at night, who dreamed of giving a good life to the family he was going to form. And we got it, see? Yes, we did. This house where we were gathered today, I bought brick by brick. Each wall, every floor, every tap you see here was sweaty, was won with the sweat of my face. Helena pregnant with Andre. I worked doubled on weekends making bits of bricklayer, all to get into a decent house to raise my son. And look what this same son was doing now, watching silent as his wife destroyed me inside. "Mom, don't talk to Grandpa like that," said my 7-year-old granddaughter, little Sophia. Sophia is the purest thing in this world. Curly hair like grandmother Helena, a smile that illuminates any environment. This girl gives me strength to stay alive since Helena is gone. Every Sunday she runs to my house, jumps on my lap, calls me hottest grandpa in the world. It's for her and her little brother, the 5-year-old Gabriel, that I still want to wake up every day. "Shut up, Sophia. Go to your room," Marcella shouted, pointing her finger at the girl. "Adult is talking." I felt a pain in my chest as I saw my granddaughter running up crying. This woman had no right to treat such a child, not in my house. Sophia didn't deserve to witness this. She should be playing, laughing, being a child, not watching her grandmother being cheered like that. Gabriel, the little one, also began to cry softly. He didn't quite understand what was happening, but he felt the tension in the air. Child has this sixth sense, right? They know when something is wrong, even without understanding the words. "Marcella, you crossed the boundary," I said, trying to keep calm. "This is my house and..." "Your house?" She laughed with contempt. "What house, Carlos? This house that is falling apart? This backyard full of bush? Do you look in the mirror and see what a real man?" I looked around my room. It was true that things were not like before. The wall paint was peeling at some points. The couch had some patches. The television was one of those old tube. But this house had history. It had love. Each furniture here has a memory. That armchair there was where Helena sat down to breastfeed Andre. The room table was where we did the homework with him every day. The backyard was where she hung the cloth diapers we washed along. Since I lost my job at Metallurgical 8 months ago, things have been really difficult. The company closed, sent everyone away for day by night. 30 years of signed wallet, and from 1 hour to the other I was on the street. At 52, no one wants to hire more. Too experienced, they say. Dear, they think. Unemployment insurance ended 2 months ago. I'm living on the retirement leftover Helena and some nozzles I do here and there. Wall painting, gate repair, these things. It's not much, but you can survive. You can buy the food, pay the light, keep the house running. The words of her cut like razor. I felt the tears wanting to escape, but I held firmly. I wasn't going to taste it. My father, yes, was a real man. He built an empire, left my mother in a mansion, had 3 cars, the garage. And you? You are a failure, Carlos. A failure that could not even hold his wife. When she mentioned my Helena, who had died of cancer 3 years ago, something broke inside me. My wife had fought like a warrior, and I stayed beside her every second until the last breath. How did this woman dared to use this against me? Helena discovered cancer on a routine exam. Breast cancer, already advanced. The doctor gave us 6 months. She lived almost 2 years fighting. 2 years where I didn't leave her side or to have a glass of water. I sold my car to pay private treatment. I got a bank loan using the house as a guarantee. I did everything, to try to save the woman from my life. And we got more time together. It was 22 months of fighting, doctor, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. 22 months where I learned that loving someone really is that. It is being together in health and illness, in joy and sadness, as we swore on the altar. Andre was starting the relationship with Marcella at this time. At first she even helped, went to the hospital together, carried food. But after Helena died, she changed completely. He began to say that I was clinging in the past, that needed to touch life forward. Helena wasn't going back, as if it were easy to forget 28 years of marriage, as if it were easy to sleep in a bed that for decades was divided with the person you loved most in the world. Marcella, Andre finally spoke out, but with a weak voice, without authority. You don't need this. No need? Andre, open your eyes. Your father is a dead weight. Look at this house. Look how he dresses. What example is he giving our children? I looked at my reflection in the room window. It was true, I was a little thinner since Helena left. The clothes were half wide, the beard to do a few days ago. My social shirt, which once was tight in the chest and arms, now looked borrowed. I lost almost 15 pounds since she was gone. It's not that I don't eat right, it's that food no longer tastes, you know? After I lost my job in metallurgist 8 months ago, it had been hard to get ready every day. Why dress well if you have nowhere to go? Why shave if you have no one to impress? But that did not justify such cruelty. Marcella has always been the top. Since he started dating Andre, she had made it clear that she had come from a possession family. Father retired civil servant, mother owner, big house in the noble neighborhood of the city. She grew up with all the best and the best. Private school, brand clothes, vacation trip every year. When Andre brought her at home for the first time, Helena was worried. This girl won't adapt to our reality, she told me. She is used to another standard of living. And Helena was right, as always. But Andre was in love. I thought love moved mountains, and maybe really move. But there are some people who are too big mountains for any love to move. Listen here, Carlos, Marcella continued, approaching me with that finger, laughing. Andre and I have already talked. You will sell this house. It's too big for you alone. With the money you buy a little apartment and still a good money for us. We need, understand? We have children to create, college to pay. Sell the house? I repeated, incredulous. The house, where did you grow up? Where did Andre take the first steps? Where Helena and I built our family. This house was not just a property. It was the dream come true of two people who loved each other. It was the place where Andre said Dad for the first time, where he learned to walk, where he had chicken pox and Helena spent all night awake taking care of him. It was where we had a birthday party at the backyard, where Andre brought his friends from school to play. It was where Helena planted that jasmine foot at the entrance, which to this day perfumes the whole house when it blooms. It was where we sat on the porch every afternoon to talk about the day, about dreams, about the future we were building together. How could they want me to sell it all for money? Exact where you have built past. Now it's time to think about the future. In the future of your grandchildren. Andre was still silent, avoiding my gaze. My own son, which I carried on my lap as a baby, which I taught to ride a bicycle, which I worked for a double day to pay private school, was quiet, letting his wife destroy me. I remembered Andre Pequeno, how he ran to hug me when I arrived from all the work, dirty with grease. Daddy, he screamed, and I forgot all the tiredness. I remembered when he was afraid to sleep alone and came to bed in our bed. Helena complained that she was going to be bad used to, but I left. Leave the boy, Helena. Soon he will grow up and will no longer want to know about his father. And that's exactly what had happened. He grew up and no longer wanted to know his father. Worse, I wanted to get rid of the father. Andre, I said, looking directly at him, is that what do you want? Take your father from the house where you grew up? He sighed deeply, finally raised his eyes to me, but it wasn't my boy's gaze. It was the look of a stranger, cold, calculating, just like his wife. Dad, Marcella is right. You're alone here. This house is very big. And, well, we really need financial help, financial aid. This is what 28 years of hard work became. This is what a lifetime of sacrifice was summed up. A financial aid to the child who could not support his own family. I felt as if I had punched my stomach, my own blood, my own flesh. The boy I woke up at dawn to take to the doctor when I had a fever. The boy I taught to tie the laces, to ride a bicycle, to be a man. So is it like that? I asked, the voice shaking. 3 years after I buried my wife, do you want to get me out of my only thing? Stop drama, Carlos. Marcella hit the fist on the table, making the dishes jump. You're not even half of the man my father was. At least he left something of value to the family. You only know how to work and expense. It was at this moment that I pushed the chair hard and got up. The noise echoed the whole house. I felt angry, but a different anger. A cold, controlled anger. A anger that came not only to humiliation, but of years and years swallowing this woman's challenges. Marcella, I said, looking deep into her eyes, feeling something changing inside me. You talked about your father, about the empire he built. She crossed her arms, arrogant, thinking she had won the battle. So, it's true. At least he was a successful man. I walked to the room sideboard, where there were some old photos and documents that Helena always kept with love. There was a special drawer there, a drawer she called Important Memories. I took a folder that had been there for years, a folder that Marcella never paid attention, never bothered to ask what it was. Helena has always been careful with documents. She kept everything: certificates, contracts, photos, letters. One day you may need it, she said, and she was right, as always. Are you sure you know the truth about your father, Marcella? Something in my voice made her hesitate for a second. Andre frowned, confused. What are you talking about, Carlos? I held the paste in my hands, feeling the weight of all those years keeping that secret. Helena always asked me not to tell. Cut there, Carlos, she said. It's not worth hurting the girl. But Helena was no longer here, and after what I just heard, after being compared to that man, your father really left a lot of money when he died, wasn't it, Marcella? Of course it has left, unlike you, which will only leave debt. I opened the folder and took a yellowish photo from there, a photo showing a young man, uniform, in front of a government building. Marcella's father, Osvaldo Ferreira. Do you know how your father got all this money, daughter? Her expression changed. For the first time since I arrived here today, I saw uncertainty in your eyes. He worked in government. He was a civil servant. It was really, I confirmed, taking another folder document, a civil servant who somehow managed to buy 3 houses, 2 imported cars, and even left a millionaire inheritance earning a minimum wage. Andre got up from the chair, clearly bothered. Father, where do you want to go with it? I looked at Marcella, who was visibly uncomfortable now. Her cheeks were blocked, her hands shaking slightly. His wife spent his whole life compared to her father, Andre, saying that he was an example of man, that I didn't get to his feet. I took a deep breath. But there's one thing she doesn't know. One thing her mother asked me to never tell. The silence in the room was total. Even the children had stopped making noise upstairs. It was as if the whole house is holding its breath. Carlos, Marcella said, and for the first time her voice was trembling. What story is this? I held the document firmly in my hands. It was a copy of a 1987 federal police investigation report, and report that Helena had achieved through a cousin who worked at the PF at the time. A report that would change everything Marcella thought she knew about her father. Marcella, I said, looking deep into her eyes, before you keep comparing me with your dad, I think you better know the truth about where all the money he left. She swallowed dry, and I could see the fear starting to take over her face. What's true? And that's when I knew that my life was about to change forever, because some truths, when revealed, have no return, and what I was about to show her would not only shut up forever, but also reveal the kind of man who really created the woman who was trying to destroy me. But before I could open my mouth to continue, the phone rang, a long, insistent touch that cut silence like a razor. And when I answered, the voice on the other side made me completely froze. Carlos, here is the delegate Enrique Cardoso. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about that old case of Osvaldo Ferreira. I think you will want to know. We find more evidence. I held the phone with trembling hands, looking straight at Marcella, who was pale as paper. Delegate Henrique on the other end of the line seemed agitated, speaking softly as if someone could be listening. Carlos, I can't talk much by phone, but we found new documents in the dead file. Documents that his father-in-law Osvaldo tried to hide before he died. The investigation that was filed in 1987, it can be reopened. My heart fired. After so many years, finally the truth was going to surface. Delegate, can I go there now? I have some things that may be interested in the Lord. Yes, Carlos. And bring everything you have about Osvaldo. I think it's time for the Ferreira family to pay for the things they did. I hung up the phone, and silence in the room was deafening. Marcella looked at me with wide eyes. Andre was confused, and I felt that finally my time had come to show who was really the man she admired so much. Who was this on the phone? Marcella asked, the voice coming out like a whisper. It was Federal Police Delegate Enrique Cardoso. He wants to talk to me about his father. I sat in the armchair that was from Helena, the same where she used to read the letters that arrived for her. It was in this armchair that she told me, 15 years ago, what had discovered about Osvaldo Ferreira. I remember as if it were yesterday. Helena came home that Friday afternoon with an expression I had never seen before. She was pale, nervous, looking around as if someone would appear at any time. Carlos, she said, calling me to the room. I need to tell you something about Marcella's father. At that time, Andre and Marcella had been dating for 2 years. She was always bragging about the family's financial situation, always making it clear that they had a much better social position than ours. Helena was always uncomfortable with this, but she never said anything not to create a problem. "What is it, love?" I asked, seeing her nervousness. "Remember my cousin Roberto, who works at the federal police?" Of course I remembered. Roberto was the son of Helena's sister, a serious, hard-working man who always kept total confidentiality about his work. Today he came to me on the market. He said he needed to tell me something important about Andre's family's family. Helena opened her bag and took a brown folder from those files. My wife was shaking. "Carlos, Marcela's father was not just an ordinary civil servant. He was involved in a corruption scheme that diverted money from public works. Millions of reais, Carlos. Millions." I felt a cold in my belly. "What do you mean, Helena?" Roberto showed me the documents. Osvaldo Ferreira was responsible for approving the payments of the city's works, but he approved overpriced values and received a percentage of each payment. This was how he managed to buy all those properties. I took the papers from her hand. They were copies of official documents, investigative reports, photos of Osvaldo entering and leaving suspicious places, all dated from 1985 to 1987. "But why didn't the investigation go ahead?" I asked. Helena sighed deep. "Because he died before being arrested, Carlos. Fulminating heart attack at 52. Roberto said they suspect it was suicide because he knew he would be arrested the following week. And the money? The properties? Everything was for the family. The widow claimed that she knew nothing, that he always said that the money came from the inheritance of a rich uncle. As they could not prove her involvement, let it go. That night Helena and I talked even at dawn about what to do with that information. "Do we tell Andre?" I asked. "I don't know, Carlos. If we tell, he'll tell Marcela, and she'll freak out. And if she doesn't count, this weight is on our back. But she has the right to know where the money she inherited from." Helena took my hand. "And if she already knows, Carlos? What if the whole family knows and is pretending to know? We'll get in a confusion that is not ours." We decided to keep secret. Helena made me promise that while she was alive, I wouldn't tell anyone. "It's not worth destroying the family because of the past," she said. And I fulfilled my promise. For 15 years I swallowed frog behind the frog. I heard Marcela compare me with her father, to humiliate me, to say that I was not enough man, that Osvaldo was an example to follow. For 15 years, I bit my tongue as she called me failed. But Helena was no longer here, and after what had just happened, the humiliation I spent in front of my grandchildren, the attempt to get myself out of my own home, the time has come to light. "Marcela," I said, opening the folder that Helena had kept all these years, "his father was investigated by the federal police for corruption, diversion of public money, and gang formation." The silence that followed was mortal. Marcela was so white that I thought she was going to pass out. You're lying," she stammered. "My father was an honest man. He diverted more than 5 million reais from public works between 1985 and 1987. I continued, taking a document from the folder. "Here is the federal police report. Here are his photos receiving bribes. Here is the list of all the ghost companies he created to launder the money." Andre got up from the chair and came to me. "Dad, what is this story? Where did you get these rolls?" Her mother discovered this 15 years ago. Her cousin who works at the PF handed her a copy of the process to her. "Helena made me promise she would never tell you while she was alive." Marcela tore off the papers from my hand with violence. "This is a lie. This is forged. You invented it to take revenge on me. Read the documents, Marcela. Read your father's name. Read the description of the house where you lived. Read the amount of the bank account he had." She started reading, and I saw her expression changing each line. Her hands trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. "No, it can't be true. His father died of heart attack a week before he was arrested." I continued. "The federal police were going to pick him up the following Monday. Roberto, Helena's cousin, said they suspect it was suicide." Andre was reading over her shoulder, pale like a ghost. "Marcela, what if it's true? And if the money your parents left—" "Shut up!" she shouted, turning to him. "Shut up. My father was not a thief. But the evidence is here, love. The documents are official, have a stamp of the federal police." Marcela began to tear the papers, desperate. "I don't accept it. I don't accept it. That's a lie." I held her wrist. "It can tear at ease, Marcela. These are copies. The originals are with the delegate Henrique, and from what he just told me, they found more evidence." She looked at me with pure hatred. Did you know that 15 years ago and never told?" Helena asked me not to tell. She said she wasn't worth destroying a family because of the past. "But do you know what changed it?" She was crying now, tears of anger down her face. "What changed was that you humiliate me in front of my grandchildren. What changed was that you wanted to get me out of my house. What changed was that you compare me with a thief, with a corrupt, calling me failure." Andre tried to calm the situation. "Dad, let's calm down. This is a thing of the past." "Thing of the past?" he interrupted. "Andre, Do you know how much is the house where your mother-in-law lives? Do you know how much the car it drives is worth? Do you know where the money you paid for your business school is? He was silent. It came from money stolen from the people, son. Money that should have been used to build schools, hospitals, asphalt streets. Money that ended up in her family pocket. Marcella was sobbing now. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Your mother didn't know? I asked. A woman marries a man who earns minimum wage and suddenly he appears with 3 houses and 2 cars and she doesn't ask where the money came from? I remembered another conversation I had with Helena a few days after she showed me the documents. We were lying in bed and she was restless. Carlos, do you think Marcella's mother really didn't know anything? Why do you ask that? Because I remembered one thing. Remember when we went on her 80th birthday last year? Of course I remembered. It was a big party at her house in the noble neighborhood. Marcella made a point of showing all the rooms of the house, talking about the good taste and the quality of each furniture. She showed me her room, remember? And there was a picture at the head of the bed, a picture of Osvaldo of military uniform. So what? Carlos, he was never a military man. In the federal police report says he was always a civil servant. Why would he have a military uniform photo? Now I understood her concern. Do you think it was a disguise? It was either posed to impress someone or it was really disguise. Man doesn't take a picture of military uniform if he never served the army, right? I looked at Marcella, who was still in tears. Marcella, does your mother still have that picture of her military uniform father in her room? She lifted her head, confused. How do you know about this photo? Helena noticed her when we went on her mother's birthday. Your father was never a military man, was it? Her face writhing with confusion. I always thought he had served the army as a young man. Yeah, another lie from the Ferreira family. Andre was running his hands on his hair, desperate. My God, Marcella, what if it's all true? And if really all the money? I don't want to hear, she shouted, covering her ears. It was at this moment that we heard steps on the stairs. Sophia and Gabriel were going down, still scared of the screams. Grandpa, Sophia said softly, why is Mom crying? I knelt in front of her and my little brother. It's an adult thing, my princess. Can you go back to the room? But I want to stay with Grandpa. Marcella got up in a jump. No, you're leaving with me now. Take your things. Marcella, children have nothing to do with it. They won't stay at the house of a man who is inventing lies about my family. Andre finally took an attitude. Marcella, 4. Kids can stay. You're too changed. Am I changed? Your father has just made up that my father was a thief and I am changed. I didn't invent anything, I said calmly. The documents are there. And if you want, we can go together to talk to the delegate Henrique right now. Marcella's cell phone rang right now. She looked at the screen and got even pale. Yeah, it's my mother, he answered with his hands shaking. Hello, Mom? Across the line, I heard the nervous voice of her mother-in-law. Marcella, my daughter just called here again. It's from the federal police. They want to talk to me about their father. They said they reopened the case. Marcella looked at me with full panic eyes. Mom, I'm going there. He hung up the phone and stared at me. Carlos, if you did something, if you have moved a lawsuit against my family, I didn't do anything, Marcella. Justice moves alone. After so many years, she finally arrived. It was at this moment that my cell phone rang. It was a message from Delegate Henrique. Carlos, urgent. We found that the Ferreira family continues to use the money diverted to this day. Your daughter-in-law may be involved. Come here as soon as possible. My blood froze. Marcella not only inherited dirty money, she was still using him. I held my cell phone looking at that message from Delegate Henry as if it were a bomb about to explode. Your daughter-in-law may be involved. The words echoed in my head as Marcella finished talking to her mother, increasingly nervous. Mom, I'm going there now. Don't say anything to anyone in the police until I arrive, she said before she turned off. I looked at her with other eyes. It was no longer just an arrogant daughter-in-law trying to get me out of the house. It was possibly a criminal who was continuing the crimes of his dead father. Marcella, I said, keeping the cell phone in my pocket, before you run out, I think we better have a serious conversation. She stared at me with contempt, but I could see the fear behind that pre mask. I have nothing to talk to you, Carlos. You just destroyed my family with your lies. Lies, I repeated, taking one of the documents she had tried to tear. So explain one thing. How did you get that apartment in downtown earning what you get as a receptionist? Andre frowned. What apartment, Marcella? She was visibly uncomfortable. Yeah, it's an investment. I bought to rent. What money? I insisted. You earn 2 minimum wages. Andre earns 3 as a beginner accountant. You have 2 children to sustain. Where did you get money to buy an apartment of 300,000 reais? Andre turned to her, shocked. 1,000? Marcella, what story is this? You never told me any apartment. Because it's surprised. I was going to tell after what? I asked. After you could get me out of this house and sell it too? That's when I understood everything. The plan was not just taking me out of the house for evil. It was because they needed more money to keep laundering what had left Osvaldo's money. Andre, I said, looking directly at my son. His wife didn't buy an apartment with honest money. She is using what's left of the money her father stole. This is a lie, Marcella shouted. Then show me the vouchers where the money came from. It shows me your income tax statement. Shows me the bank statements. She was changed. In that momentum, Sophia went down the stairs and threw herself on my lap. Grandpa, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here with the Lord. I felt my heart tighten. That innocent child was in the middle of all that dirt without understanding anything. My princess, Grandpa needs to solve some adult things first. Sophia, come here now, Marcella ordered. We will leave. I don't want to, the girl answered, clinging around my neck. It was at this moment that I made a decision. I couldn't let that woman take my grandchildren away, though she was unaware of where she had gotten money to buy apartments. What if she decided to escape the country with the children? Marcella, the kids stay here with me until this situation is resolved. How is it? You heard it right. Sophia and Gabriel stay here. You will solve your problems with the federal police first. Andre finally took an attitude. Father, you can't do that. They are our daughters. It's your daughters, Andre. But I'm their grandfather and I have rights too. And I won't let you take these children away until you don't know where the money that sustains you comes from. Marcella was out of her mind. Carlos, you lost your head. I'll call the police. Great idea. Yes, it will be easier for them to arrest you. It was at this moment that my phone rang again. It was the delegate Henry. Carlos, where are you? I needed to come here urgently, and if possible, bring your daughter-in-law together. Why, delegate? We found suspicious bank movements in her account, tall deposits without proven origin. I think she's washing the money her father has left. I looked at Marcella, who was obviously trying to hear the conversation. Delegate, is she here with me? Can you send a vehicle? It's not yet necessary, but it is better to come willingly. It will be better for her. I hung up the phone and turned to Marcella. The federal police want to talk to you about suspicious bank movements in your account. She got white as a paper. What movements? High deposits without proven origin. Andre was incredulous. Marcella, what money is this? Where do you come from? She started stuttering. Yeah, it's from the sale of some jewels that my mother gave me. What jewels? I insisted. The same jewelry your father bought with diverted money? I can't take it anymore. She exploded. Do you want to know the truth? Do you really know? Andre and I were silent, waiting. My father left a lot of money hidden, much more than you imagine. My mother always knew everything. Yes, she always knew where the money came from. Andre held his head with his hands. My God, Marcella. And I always knew, she continued, already without control. From an early age, I knew my dad didn't make that money just from public jobs. But do you know one thing? I don't care. The silence in the room was total. Even Sophia stopped moving my lap. The money was there still, with no one to use it. So I used it. Andre got up incredulously. Marcella, are you telling me you knew it was stolen money and used it anyway? So, the money would not resurrect the people my father hurt. Better him to serve something useful. Useful like what? I asked. To buy apartments? To travel? To maintain a standard of living you can't afford? Exactly. Why should I live as you live? Why should I need if you have money available? Andre was faded. Marcella, this is a crime. Money laundering is a crime. Crime is a man to work 30 years and not be able to leave anything for children, she countered, looking at me angrily. Crime is living in a house falling apart and content with it. It was at this moment that I understood the kind of woman my son had married. A person without character, without morals, without scruples. A person who would rather live on the money stolen to build something honestly. Marcella, I said, getting up with Sophia still on my lap, you just confessed money laundering in front of witnesses. And what are you going to do? I report me? I don't need to. The federal police are already investigating. It was at this moment that her cell phone rang again. She answered with trembling hands. Hello? Marcela Ferreira? It was a male, official voice. Yes, this is the delegate Enrique Cardoso of the federal police. I need the lady to attend the police station today to provide clarification on irregular bank movements. She hung up the phone and looked at me with pure hatred. You did that. You reported me. I didn't have to denounce anyone, Marcella. Crime leaves trail. Earlier or later, justice arrives. Andre was walking from side to side, desperate. Marcella, how could you do this? How could you fool me during TT all these years? I didn't mistake you, I just didn't tell you. You also benefited from the money. What do you mean I benefited? Who do you think you paid our honeymoon? Who do you think you paid the car you drive? Who do you think you paid the children's health insurance? Andre got white. Did you use stolen money to pay our things? What do you use your misery salary? At that moment, Gabriel descended the stairs crying, Mom, why are you screaming? I picked him up too, the two grandchildren clinging to me. Marcella, I said, looking deep into her eyes, you go to the police station now, and you won't set foot in this house anymore. You can't do that. I can. This is my house, and I don't want criminals here. Andre approached me. Dad, I didn't know any of that. I swear I didn't know. I looked at my son, my boy, which I raised with so much love, so much sacrifice. He was sincerely desperate. But there was a question that needed to be asked. Andre, have you never suspected where so much money came from? He hesitated. I always found it strange, but she said it was a family inheritance. And did you believe? I wanted to believe it, Dad. Life became so easier. I felt a stupid on the chest. My own son had chosen to close my eyes for crime because life became easier. Andre, you are my son, my blood, but you disappointed me deeply. Dad, I can fix it. Can you? How? Returning the stolen money? Paying for the crimes? Admitting that you knew something was wrong? Marcella took the bag and headed at the door. Andre, do you come with me or stay there listening to this old man? Andre looked at her, then to me, then for children on my lap. Marcella, I need to think. Need to think? She shouted. I'm your wife. Your place is by my side. Your place is in jail, I answered. And if Andre is smart, he won't accompany you. It was at this moment that she turned to me with a look that I will never forget. A look of absolute hatred. Carlos, do you think you won, right? Do you think you destroyed my life and will stay for that? Marcella, I didn't destroy your life. You destroyed your own life when you chose to live from the stolen money. For know of something? She said, pointing her finger at me. I'm going to make you regret moving me. I'll make you pay for every humiliation I've been here today. Is it a threat? It's a promise. And with that, she left, knocking on the door. Andre stood there, looking at the door, then to me. Dad, what do I do now? You do what you should have done for a long time, son. You choose between right and wrong. It was at this moment that my cell phone rang again. It was a message of an unknown number. Carlos, you have moved the wrong person. Watch out for what can happen to your home and your grandchildren. I felt a cold in my pimple. Marcella was not just running away. She was planning a revenge. I showed the threatening message to Andre, who was pale as he read. Carlos, you have moved the wrong person. Watch out for what can happen to your home and your grandchildren. Dad, this is a real threat. Marcella is out of control, Andre said, the voice shaking. She is able to do anything when she gets angry. I held Sophia and Gabriel tighter on my lap. These innocent children did not deserve to be in the midst of this war that Marcella had declared against me. Andre, are you going to be on my side or side with her? I asked, looking straight into my son's eyes. He hesitated for a few seconds that seemed eternity. Dad, I choose the right side, your side. It was the first time in years that I felt my son's genuine pride. Perhaps there was still hope for our family. My phone rang. It was the delegate Henry. Carlos, I need to give you important information. Marcela Ferreira didn't come to testify. She disappeared. I felt a cold in my pimple. How did you disappear? She was seen getting out of the city by car with several bags. And there is more. She transferred all the money from her accounts to an account abroad. We are considering escape from the country. I looked at Andre, who was listening to everything. Delegate, she made threats against me and my grandchildren. That's why I'm calling. I'm going to send a vehicle around your home. And Carlos, there's one thing you need to know. We find more evidence against her father. Documents that show that the corruption scheme was much bigger than we imagined. Greater how? Osvaldo Ferreira didn't work alone. He had a network of accomplices, and some of them are still alive. I felt that there was more in this story than I imagined. What kind of accomplices? Entrepreneurs, other civil servants, even politicians. Carlos, the money his Nora used, did not come from what her father stole. He came from a criminal organization, Iron Terra. He hung up the phone and stared at Andre, who was white as a paper. Dad, in what trouble did I get into? You didn't get into anything, son. You were fooled by a criminal. It was at this moment that the doorbell rang. I looked out the window and saw a woman on the door. He was Dona Concheição, my neighboring neighbor, a lady who was always very close to Helena. I opened the door carefully. Dona Conceição? What a surprise. Carlos, my son, I need to talk to you urgently, she said, looking around with nervousness. It's about your daughter. In-law. Enter. Between. What happened? She entered and sat in the armchair, refusing the coffee I offered. Carlos, about 3 months ago I started to suspect some strange things happening at Marcela's mother's house. Andre approached, interested. What kind of things? Different cars stopping there every week. Always men in a suit, with the face of those who weren't good people, and always taking pastes, briefcases. I felt my heart accelerate. Did you even see who they were? No, but I wrote some car signs, she said, taking a crumpled roll from her bag, because I found it very strange. Dona Severina was always a very reserved woman, never received visits. I looked at the plates numbers. It could be important for the investigation. Dona Concepcion, did you tell someone? No, my son. But this morning I saw something that made me very worried. What? I saw Marcella getting there with the car full of bags. And a few minutes later, 2 very bad men arrived. They were talking at the door, and I heard one of them speaking their name. I felt a shiver. My name? Yes. They said, Waim. The old man will pay for getting into where he shouldn't. Andre got up nervously. Dad, we need to call the police. There's more, Carlos, Dona Concepcion continued. After they left, I saw Marcella throwing some papers in the trash. When I dusk, I went there and took it. She took some crumpled papers out of her bag. These are contracts, Carlos. Property sales contracts. It seems that she is liquidating everything to escape the country. I took the papers and started reading. It was exactly that. Marcella was selling apartments, houses, even jewelry for values far below the market, clearly trying to turn everything into cash quickly. Dona Concepcion, you are an angel. This information can help the police arrest her. At that moment, my phone rang again. It was a number I didn't know. Hello? Carlos? It was a feminine, nervous voice. Yes. Who speaks? Here is Severina, Marcella's mother. I was surprised. Dona Severina had never called me before. Dona Severina, how are you? Carlos, I need to talk to you personally. It's about my daughter, and about my late husband. Do you want to come here? I can't. There are people watching me. Can you come home? Now? I looked at Andre, who nodded. Yes, I can. I go there now. Carlos, come alone. And be careful. There are things that I need to tell you that can change everything. He hung up the phone and I was thoughtful. Andre, you stay here with the kids and Dona Concepcion. Don't let anyone get in. Dad, it's dangerous for you to go alone. Son, sometimes a man needs to face the danger head-on to protect who loves. I arrived at Dona Severina's house 20 minutes later. It was a large, well-maintained house in the city's prime neighborhood. I touched the bell and she opened the door immediately, as if waiting for me in the window. Carlos, between fast. She was visibly nervous, looking at the street before closing the door. Dona Severina, are you okay? No, Carlos, I haven't been fine for a long time. She took me to the living room, the same room where I had been on her 80th birthday, but now the atmosphere was different, dark, heavier. Carlos, sit here. I need to tell you the whole truth. I sat on the couch and she stood walking around. All the truth about what, Dona Severina? About my husband, about the money, about my daughter. She stopped walking and looked at me straight. Carlos, I always knew my husband was corrupt. I always knew the money was stolen, and worse, I helped him hide. I felt as if I had punched. What do you mean you helped? I signed documents. I opened accounts on behalf of ghost companies. I received the money and transferred to other accounts. For 15 years, I was an accomplice of all his crimes. Dona Severina began to cry, and Marcella discovered everything when she was 16. She found some documents in her father's office and confronted me. And what did you do? I told her the truth, and you know what she told me? I shook my head, waiting. She said, Mom, if it's supposed to be rich, better to be rich with stolen money than poor with honest money. I felt disgusted. A 16-year-old girl talking like that. Since then, Carlos, my daughter has become a person I don't recognize. She has not only accepted dirty money but began to demand more. Demand how? When her father died, she forced me to continue moving the money. He forced me to sell properties and invest in others. He forced me to lie to everyone about the origin of our wealth. Dona Severina sat next to me. Carlos, 3 months ago my daughter told me I wanted all the money. All. To leave the country and start new life elsewhere. And did you give? I had no choice. She threatened me. Did you threaten how? He said that if I didn't give the money, she was going to report me to the police as solely responsible for her father's crimes. She was going to leave me behind to pay for everything we did. Now I understood why Marcella was so desperate to get me out of the house. She needed all possible money to escape the country. Dona Severina, why are you telling me this now? She held my hand. Because this morning she came here with 2 very dangerous men. Men who worked with my husband when he was alive. And what did they want? They wanted to know how much you knew about the crimes. They wanted to know if you had documents. And Carlos, she hesitated. They are planning to do something with you. I felt the blood freezing. What kind of thing? I don't know for sure, but I heard them talking about solving the problem definitely. It was at this moment that I understood that the situation was much more serious than I imagined. It wasn't just about Marcella trying to escape with stolen money. It was about an entire criminal organization trying to silence me. Dona Severina, you have to help me. You have to tell all this to the federal police. You have to be a witness against your own daughter. She started to cry harder. Carlos, if I do that, my daughter is arrested. She's all that I have left in my life. Dona Severina, her daughter has already chosen her side. She has chosen the crime. Now you have to choose yours. At that moment we heard the noise of a car stopping in front of the house. Dona Severina ran to the window and paled. Carlos, They are the men who were here in the morning. I looked out the window and saw two men coming out of a black car. Large men, suit with the face of few friends. Do you have another way out? For the kitchen there is a door that gives the backyard. Donna Severina, you come with me. Now. I can't. If they come to run away, if you stay it may be worse. It was at this moment that the doorbell rang. A long, insistent touch. Donna Severina, a thick voice shouted outside. Open the door. It's about the old man who was moving where he shouldn't. I held the lady's hand and whispered, now or never, and it was running through the kitchen leaving the back door, which I understood that this was no longer just a family fight. It was a war against an entire criminal organization, and they were willing to shut up. But I had an advantage that they didn't imagine. Finally, I had a witness willing to tell the truth. We ran through Donna Severina's backyard as if our lives depended on it, and maybe they really depended. Behind us, we listened to the cries of the criminals when they found that the house was empty. Here, Carlos, Donna Severina whispered, guiding me by an alley between the houses. I know this way since a girl. My heart was hitting so hard that I thought it would explode. At 52, running through alleys like a fugitive, trying to save my life and the life of a 70 lady. How had my life had arrived at this point? We arrived on the main panting street, and I immediately called the delegate, Henrique. Delegate, I'm with Donna Severina, Marcela's mother. She has information that can overthrow the whole organization, but we're being chased. Where are you? In Rua das Flores, near the Central Market. I stay there in 5 minutes. Enter the market and mix with people. We entered the market and stayed among the shelves, pretending to choose products. Donna Severina was shaking, but she had a determination in the look that impressed me. Carlos, she said softly, I'll tell you everything to the police, everything. I can't stand it anymore. Are you sure? Your daughter can take many years in prison. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, but with a firmness I had never seen in her before. My daughter chose this way, Carlos. I spent my whole life trying to protect her from the consequences of her own acts, but it's time to pay for what she did, and I also need to pay for what I did. 15 minutes later, we were at the federal police station. The room was cold with that smell of old paper and strong coffee that all public offices have. Donna Severina sat in the chair in front of the delegate and started counting absolute A and everything. It was like watching the confession of a lifetime of lies. She told about her husband's crimes, about her own involvement, how Marcela discovered her 16 and decided not only to accept dirty money but to demand more. He told about the ghost companies, about corrupt politicians who were still alive, about the mysterious deposits that happened every week. Delegate, I said, delivering all the documents Helena had kept for years, here are the evidence that my wife got 15 years ago. She always said that one day it would be important. Helena has always been a wise woman. Even dead, she was still protecting me, was still protecting our family. Delegate Henrique analyzed everything carefully, making notes, asking for details, crossing information. Carlos, with the testimony of Donna Severina and these documents, we have enough material to arrest Marcela not only, but the whole network that was operating with her. This will give a federal operation. And my grandchildren, are they safe? I've sent a team to your home. Your son and the children are under police protection. During the next few hours, the police station became an anthill. Agents arrived from various cities, prosecutors, lawyers. Donna Severina was tireless, answering all questions, providing names, addresses, bank account numbers. It was as if she was freeing herself from a prison she carried for decades. 2 hours later, we received the news I had been waiting since it all started. Marcela had been arrested at the international airport trying to board Paraguay with fake documents and 2 bags full of cash. How much money was she taking? I asked the delegate. Almost 500,000 reais in kind, plus the property documents she sold at ridiculous prices in recent weeks. 500,000 reais. Money that should be used to build schools, hospitals, asphalt streets. Money that ended up in the pocket of a family of criminals. When we arrived at the police station where she was detained, I last saw her through the interrogation room glass. She was different, completely different. It was no longer the arrogant woman who had humiliated me hours ago in my own home. The hair was messy, the blurred makeup, the wrinkled clothes. It was just a frightened criminal that had been caught. Carlos, the delegate called me. She wants to talk to you. With me? Why? He says he has something important to tell. She may want to make an award, winning agreement. I entered the room accompanied by the delegate and a defense attorney who had been assigned to her. Marcela was handcuffed, sitting in a plastic chair looking at her own hands. Carlos, she said when she saw me, the voice completely different from what I knew. I want to apologize. Sorry? I spent years humiliating you, calling you failed, comparing you with my father. And all the time you were the only honest man in all this dirty story. I felt a mixture of anger, pity, and strangely relief. I finally listened to her to admit the truth. Marcela, you had choices. All these years you had choices. I know, and I always chose it wrong. She lifted her head and looked at me straight. Do you know why I hated you so much? Why? Because you reminded me every day of what I could have been. You worked honestly, built a family with love, took care of Helena until the last day, was always a man of word, and I knew it would never be so. The tears began to run down her face. I grew up seeing my dad catch money that was not his, and my mother pretending I didn't know anything. I grew up believing that everyone was dishonest, that was just not caught. When Andre brought you and Helena to meet my family, I saw how you were clean, and that annoyed me. Why did you annoy you? Because if you could be honest and still be happy, it meant that I didn't have to have chosen the way I chose. I was silent, processing those words. Carlos, can you forgive me? I looked at that woman who had tried to destroy my family, who had threatened my grandchildren, who had humiliated me for years in front of people I loved, and I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Pity. Marcella, I forgive you, but forgiving doesn't mean you won't pay for your choices. I know, and I deserve to pay. I deserve every day I'll get stuck. And Andre? And the children? I want you to create Sophia and Gabriel away from me, far from all this dirt. They deserve to have a real family. When I left the police station 2 hours later, Andre was waiting for me at the door with Sophia and Gabriel. My son ran to hug me, crying like a small boy. Father, forgive me. Forgive for everything. For letting her humiliate you, for not defending you, for doubting the Lord all these years. I hugged my son tightly, feeling that I finally had my boy back. Andre, you are my blood, my flesh. No matter what happens, you will always be my son. Father, I want to start new life. I want to raise my children the way the Lord raised me. Honesty, hard work, with dignity. Sophia and Gabriel threw themselves in my arms, crying and laughing at the same time. Grandpa, we got scared, said Sophia. Now it's over, my princess. Grandpa is here and you are safe. And Dad is here too. We'll take care of you. What about Mom? Gabriel asked with that innocence that only a child has. Mom will stay away for a while, learning to be a better person. But you have here a family that loves you so much. 3 months later, Marcella's trial was completed. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison for money laundering, gang formation, threat, and passive corruption. Donna Severina, because she collaborated with the court and confessed spontaneously, took 2 years in a semi-open regime. The other members of the organization were also arrested, including 2 former mayors and a businessman who everyone thought was honest. Most important of all the stolen money was returned to the public coffers. Money that returned to where it should always have been, being used to build the new school in the neighborhood, reform the health clinic, asphalt the streets that have been bumpy for years. Andre sold the car that had been bought with dirty money and returned the rest of the goods to the authorities. It was difficult at first. He had to walk back by bus, cut spending, live with his own salary. But he said something that filled me with pride. Dad, I prefer to have difficulty with dignity than living easy with dishonesty. Get a better job at an accounting company in the city center, and is studying at night to specialize in an audit. I want to help discover other schemes like this, he told me. The divorce process was fast, as Marcella contested nothing. Andre got the full guard of the children, and today they live here with me in the same house that Marcella wanted to force me to sell. The house remains the same. It still has the paint peeled at some points, still has the sofa with patches, still has the old television, but now she is full of life again, full of child laughs, full of love, full of honesty. Sophia is 8 years old now and is the best student in the class. Every day she arrives from school running to tell me what she learned. Gabriel, 6, is a smart boy who asks about everything. The other day he asked me, Grandpa, why are there people who prefer to get things from others instead of working? I explained to him in the simplest way I got it. My grandson, there are people who think it's easier to take what's not yours than to work. But these people forget something. When you get what is not yours, you lose something much more important. You lose peace of mind. And what is peace of mind, Grandpa? That's when you lie in bed at night and don't have to worry if someone will knock on your door to charge something you have done wrong. Today, 6 months after all that happened, I have a routine that makes me happy. I wake up at 6 in the morning, I make the coffee, I prepare the children's breakfast. Andre goes out to work at 7, and I take Sophia and Gabriel to the bus school. In the afternoon, I seek them. I help with the homework, earring in the backyard. I got a part-time job in a neighborhood mechanical workshop. It's not much money, but it's honest. Enough to help Andre with expenses, and still left a little for small luxuries, such as taking children at the movie on the weekend or buying a new toy every now and then. Every night before bed, I talk to Helena in the picture at the head of our bed, the same bed where we slept together for 28 years. Helena, love of my life, you were right when you said that saving those documents would be important one day. You were right when you said the truth always comes out. You were right about Marcella too. And you know one thing? You would be proud to see how Andre changed. He became the man we always knew he could be. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing to reveal all that dirt. If it would not have been better to leave the past buried, accept humiliation, sell the house and live in any kitchenette. It would be easier. It would be simpler. But then I look at my grandchildren playing in the backyard. I see my son coming from work with dignity stamped on his face, and I know I did exactly what needed to be done. The truth hurts. The truth hurts. Truth sometimes destroys whole families, but the lie destroys much more. The lie corrupts, contaminates, ashamed. And when you build your life on lies, one time or another, everything collapses like a castle of cards. I could have continued to pretend I didn't know anything about dirty money. He could have sold the house, moved to a small apartment, and left Marcella keep living from the stolen money while humiliating me every Sunday. It would be much more comfortable, but it wouldn't be right. And if Helena taught me something in 28 years of marriage, it was that doing what is right is not always easy, but it is always worth it. This morning, Sophia asked me a question that made me thrilled. "Grandpa, why was Mom traced?" I sat her on my lap where Helena used to sit with me and explained the simplest way I got. "Princess, your mom chose to get things that weren't hers. And when we get what is not ours, we have to return and apologize. It's like when you take a Gabriel toy without permission, you have to return and say it was wrong, right? And will she come back one day? One day she'll come back, my daughter. And when she comes back, maybe she's a better person. Will the grandpa still forgive her?" "Grandpa has already forgiven her, Sophia. Forgiving does not mean accepting what the person did wrong. Forgiving means not letting the anger ruin our hearts." In the afternoon, Dona Conceição came to have coffee here at home, as she has been doing every week since it all happened. She became a fake grandmother for Sophia and Gabriel, always bringing a candy, always with a story to tell. "Carlos," she said, stirring sugar in the cafe, "you're a fiber man. It's not anyone who would have the courage to face an entire criminal organization to defend what is right. Dona Conceição, I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who didn't want to spend the rest of my life silent in the face of injustice. That's exactly what makes you a hero, my son. Hero is not afraid. Hero is who is afraid and does what is right anyway." Yesterday I received a letter from the prison. It was from Marcella, the first letter she wrote in 6 months. She wrote, "Carlos, I want you to know that every day I think about how unfair I was with you. You worked honestly, created a family with true love, took care of Helena to the last sigh, was always a man of word, and I called you failed, desperate by hunger, by precision, and I committed crimes for greed, for wanting more than I deserved. I kept the letter in the same drawer where Helena kept the important memories, because this is also an important memory, the memory that people can change, that even those who make mistakes can learn to do the right one. I don't know if Marcella really changed or if it's just trying to slow down, but I want to believe she has changed. I want to believe that these years in prison will teach her what a lifetime of privileges could not teach, that true happiness only comes when you can look in the mirror and be proud of who you are. Last Sunday, Andre and I were sitting on the porch watching the kids play in the backyard when he said to me, "Dad, thanks. Thank you for son, because I taught me the difference between right and wrong, because I never gave up on me, even when I chose the wrong way, for showing me that a real man is not measured by the money he has, but by the character he carries. Andre, you always knew the difference, you just lost your way for a while. What if I had continued lost? But you didn't continue. You chose to go back, and that's what matters. Tonight, like every night, Andre and I will sit on the porch to talk about the day. The boys will play in the backyard until it darkens. I will make the dinner that Helena taught me, that stroganoff that was Andre's favorite as a child, and let's eat with a family, at the same table where it all started on this Easter Sunday that changed our lives forever. And when children ask about the mother, as they do every week, I will say the same thing. Mom is learning to be a better person. And meanwhile, you have a family that loves you unconditionally and will always choose to do what is right. Because in the end, this is what matters. Not the money you have in the bank, not the car brand you drive, not the size of the house where you live. What matters is being able to sleep with a quiet conscience, knowing that you did your part to leave the world a little better than you found. My name is Carlos Eduardo Silva. I am 52 years old. I am a metallurgist, widower, father of a son, and grandfather of 2 children who are the light of my life. I am not rich. I am not famous. I am not powerful, but I am honest. And today I know this is worth more than all the stolen money in the world. Helena always said, "Carlos, at the end of her life, the only thing that matters is if you were faithful to your values, even when it was expensive." I was faithful, my love. I was true to the values you taught me, the values we taught to Andre, the values that I am now passing our grandchildren. Was it cost expensive? It cost. But it was worth every tear, every night's sleep, every moment of fear. And if this is not being a real man, then I don't know what it is anymore. When I lie in bed every night and look at the roof of the same room where I lived the best years of my life, I have a peace I hadn't felt for a long time. The peace of who knows that he did the right thing. The peace of those who owe nothing to anyone. The peace of those who can look into their own grandchildren without being ashamed. And this peace, my friends, is priceless. No money from the world buys the tranquility of a clean consciousness.